Hello, everyone. You're listening to the Socially Desi Show, the podcast that motivates you to live, create, and inspire. If this is your first time here, welcome. On our show, we discuss tips and strategies with our guest speakers on how to tackle problems related to personal growth, mental health, relationships, business and entrepreneurship, and health and fitness. So hit that subscribe button and go check out our website at sociallydesi.com for more of such content. Today, I'm joined by Sonica Aron. She is the founder and managing director at Marching Sheep. Marching Sheep is a boutique HR advisory firm that is inspiring change across hiring and absorbing trends. Marching Sheep also focuses on talent development interventions and effective diversity and inclusion programs. It is one of the few agencies in India to drive LGBTQ inclusions and privacy frameworks for different companies across India and the globe. So, with that, welcome, Sonika. Welcome to the Socially Desi Show.
Thank you so much, Anurag, for having me here. I'm so excited to be here.
No, excited to have you on the show. Thank you so much for doing this. And before we even begin the episode, I would love to know about your professional journey so far, not just with Marching Sheep, but across your career.
Oh, that's going to be a long one, but I'll try to.
We have all the time. No
so,
need to worry about that.
I have been an HR professional now for almost 2 decades. I'm an XLR. Pass out, post graduated in HR. I started my career with Pepsi. I have worked with companies like Roche Diagnostics. I joined Hutch, which then got acquired by Vodafone. Then I joined ICI Paints, which got acquired by AkzoNobel. So I have a lot of experience of working on process transitions and integrations. And then I joined Philips, where I was heading HR for Philips Consumer Lifestyle Business. This was in 2012. And then I took a sabbatical for a year. That was when I was expecting our second child. And then I started Marching Sheep in the year 2013.
Okay.
And I am possibly the first person in my family who took the punt on being in business management. So I come from a family of doctors. My father was a plastic surgeon. My mother is a gynecologist. My brother is a urologist, married to a pathologist. My sister is a homemaker, married to a urologist. So when I said I want to do MBA, and they were like, "What is MBA?" Then
you forgot
much
the
later,
BB. You forgot the B and S around that. So
and then later when I said that, I'm marrying this person who is working in an FMCG, my brother who's a urologist, he said, "What is FMCG?" So those are the conversations we've had. And then nobody in my family or my husband's family, for that matter, has been an entrepreneur or a business owner. So for them, when I said that I'm going to start on my own, it was like, but we work. Well, we've always been in a safe environment where we get a salary every month. So that's been my journey so far.
So that's an interesting journey, and I can totally relate with that because I also come from a 4G background. Most of my family members are in services or they are working somewhere. So all professional, working class family, and then you do something out of the ordinary, and you be like, no, I want to start something, and that too in the content space, doing something with podcasts as my full time work. So that also creates those kind of initial frictions, but I'm sure since 2013 your family must have warmed up and like, okay, now we understand what she does, and that's how things roll out. But why the name Marching Sheep? Very interesting name. I would love to know the reason behind that.
It was very interesting, actually. When I started working on the blueprint of what would I really do. So there are so many people who are working in the space of consulting, and there were a couple of things which had stayed with me during my corporate career. One was how organizations were dealing with the entire diversity issue.
Okay.
for want of a better word,
Hmm.
from a space of does it even exist or does it even warrant a conversation, to looking at it like a number game. Let's just
Hmm.
hire, it being a recruitment issue, to it being a good to think fluff HR thing. Once a year on International Women's Day, we'll get some speakers and do something, and that's about it. So that was one thing that, and having been a woman professional, I had seen different nuances, not directly, indirectly, sometimes directly with myself, with other women. So that was one thing that I was extremely passionate about, that I wanted to be in my portfolio. The second
Okay.
thing was that, having been on the other side, Anurag, as a receiver of
Yep.
services,
Hmm.
one always questioned that when you receive a service, what is the end outcome? You want to see a tangible difference. You want to see a difference in behaviors. You want to see a difference in performance. I'm not saying that give me an ROI of every
Yeah.
intervention, a tangible, but you need to see some impact. And
True.
I have always felt that if you give a holistic, well thought through intervention, if
Hmm.
you don't pack in too many things into an intervention, but you think through what is it that you want to drive, even if you want to
Yep.
drive change on one or two parameters and drive it well, you
Hmm.
can make things march,
True. Yeah.
right? So I
Hmm.
made a statement saying that with the right systems and processes
Hmm.
in your interventions, you can make things march. And those
Hmm.
interventions can be anything. It can be from policy revamping to making your vision statement, to making to socializing that vision and values, to having a competency framework, to doing sessions. But you
Yep.
need to have a holistic 360-degree approach with an intention to making an impact. And that is where the name marching sheep stuck, saying that with
Okay.
the right approach, you can make sheep march.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
that is where
True.
marching sheep came. And when I started, talking about marching sheep, what I also realized is that it has great recall value. Once you talk about marching sheep,
Hmm.
nobody really forgets it.
Yep. Yep.
And it just kind of grew from there.
Okay. Okay. No, interesting. Interesting. I really like the name. That's why I wanted to understand the reason
Huh.
behind it, the thought process behind it. So well done with the name. I'm sure that it's a name that people can recollect from back of their mind. Not much of effort required there, but really
Mm.
interesting to understand that with the right kind of strategies, the right kind of frameworks in place, you can actually make sheep's march. And
Yeah.
that is what, in fact, in today's episode, guys, to whosoever is tuning in right now, we want to discuss and have a deep conversation with Sonica around the the importance of diversity and inclusion to build a healthy company culture, a healthy work environment for not just the employees, but also the employers and the customers and whosoever is involved throughout. Because it is not just the employees and the employers who are part of that ecosystem, it's the family members, it's the friends, everyone who is even at the tertiary level involved with you gets impacted here. And that is where I wanted to ask you the first question of this conversation is that we are living in 2022. We are living in an era which is talking about metaverse, right? We are talking
Mm.
about a place which is going to be totally remote, maybe 100% virtual in the next 10 years. How are companies making business critical decisions here when it comes to recruitment practices, when it comes to employee resource groups? How are they embracing this change? And how does this whole diversity and inclusion piece fits into the puzzle?
Sorry. So, very interesting question. So let me break this down. Okay.
Yep.
So a lot has changed in the last 2 years.
Hmm.
Okay. So let us first understand that it is not just technology which has changed, metaverse which has changed or which has come in. The workforce has changed. Okay, let's first understand that people who work for you have changed. Their
Yes.
outlook towards work has changed. And until and unless we truly understand and embrace that, we will not be able to move forward. So, look at what has happened. March 20, suddenly the lockdown got announced, and people who were used to going to work, who were used to putting in long hours, for whom it was all about putting in everything into their jobs, overnight transitioned into work from home. What they assumed to be a 21-day lockdown, 21-day remote working, stretched into like a
Of
2 year
at least a year. Yeah.
remote work. Yeah, yeah.
Yep. Yep.
And many of them got used to it. They found
Hmm.
their balance in it. Many of them
Yes.
went back to their hometowns. They found their balance in saying that, okay, now I can take care of my parents. I'm staying in my city. I can take better care of my child's education. I can take better care of my household responsibilities and also be productive, right? So
Right.
that was one. Then something happened in the second wave. Now, before I go to the second wave,
Hmm.
there were a lot of knee jerk reactions which happened from the organizations in the first wave. We
Yes.
saw a lot of layoffs, and not just from mid sized or MSMEs or SMEs or startups, but also from very established organizations, MNCs, where we had calls where people were laid off, overnight, and all sorts of things were happening. There were furloughs, there were freezing of incentives, there were delayed salaries, there was lack of communication, there was lack of transparency, there was restructuring, there were lots of things which there was huge amount of uncertainty and ambiguity
Yes.
that employees went through at that time. There was mass paranoia, if I may say so.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. So that is what employees went through at that time, which led to a lot of burnout where people were scared that tomorrow I might not have a job. And hence
Yep.
they were putting in huge amount of time just to prove that they are productive, they are there, they were
Yep.
working long hours, everything, afraid to take leaves and everything. Then the same companies realize that, when the wave ebbs, they need these employees back for business continuity and business recovery. So when the second wave came, organizations were far more empathetic. So came in all the
Yes.
COVID support policies, the bereavement
Hmm.
policies, saying that we will send you food, we will give you quarantine facilities, and so on and
Yep.
so forth. So there was a lot of support in the second stage, but the second wave was far more lethal. It
Yeah.
reached our
Yeah.
homes. A lot of people lost their loved ones in direct families or extended families. There was fear that if I fall sick, will I get oxygen? Will I get an ICU bed? Our country's infrastructure was falling apart. You were
Yes.
getting medicines in the black market at exorbitant prices. I mean, it was
Yep. Yep.
mayhem. It
Yep.
was terrible. I mean, we were so scared. If you were living in a condominium, I mean, you were scared that if somebody in the same line was sick, you could all fall sick because of the
Hmm.
same piping or the fumes or whatever. And there were all kinds of news floating around.
Yep.
So again, there was paranoia. And in all of this, people started evaluating their relationship to work and to the organizations.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
they said that what is really important? I will work too hard, but will my organization really stand by me in times of need? I might die
Yes.
tomorrow.
Hmm.
Would I have lived my life completely? Would I have spent time with my loved ones? Would I have spent time on something that I'm really passionate about? Am I here on this planet Earth just to make money or to make
Hmm.
money for somebody else?
Yep.
And a lot of people, and I'm just not talking about here the younger generation, as we like to stereotype, Generation Z
Yeah.
or millennials, but I'm
Hmm.
also talking here about people who are in, middle management or senior management, who started
True.
asking these questions. And that is where we started seeing an exodus that we call the great resignation, where they started questioning that I will give my all to an organization, but will the organization truly stand by me when I am in time of need? If I am no longer there, will my organization support my family? And to what
Right.
extent?
Hmm.
Right? Now, this change has happened. Now, see what's happened in 2022. There are three kinds of organizations, broadly categorizing. There are some organizations who have completely embraced the remote working, and they're saying it doesn't matter. If we have
Yep.
successfully worked productively, we trust our employees, we will put in processes and structures and ways of working that will empower them, enable them to work. We will decentralize our decision making, and we will continue to work remotely because we have tasted success and it's
Yep.
fine, right?
Hmm.
Then there
Yep.
are organizations where the nature of work demands hybrid working model,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? So
Yep.
people
Yep.
need to go in for sales meetings. People need to be in office for those, calls or
Yep.
meetings or
In fact, for
manufacturing.
manufacturing industries, they need to be there in the plants, right? They
They
can't
need to
just
be
work
there,
from
or
home.
essential services. So
Yep.
hybrid working model. And then there are organizations who say that no, it is so much easier to just turn around, have a conversation. I want people to be in office. So, without naming an organization where I recently concluded an assignment, I was interviewing all their senior leaders and I asked them that how many of your roles can actually be work from home. All leaders except for one
Hmm.
said that no, we want all our roles in office. And only
Okay.
one leader said that actually, 50% of my roles can be work from home. Maybe not this year because we've just started this business, but maybe from the
Hmm.
next year, once everything settles down, they can 50% can be work from home.
Okay.
And I just spoke to HR and I said that why? And I remember a panel discussion I'd had, and there the HR head of a very leading company said that 90% people come to work with a mindset of doing a good hard day's job,
Yep.
right? Maybe 10% of the people will play the system,
Hmm.
10% of the people will shirk, 10% of the people might take advantage. You want to
Yep.
police the rest 90% for those 10%.
Yeah. True.
Yeah.
True.
So now coming back to your question, that how are organizations taking this? I
Hmm.
think organizations really need to embrace that how the workforce has changed, because if we force people, now again we need to understand that workforce today also is of different kinds. There will be people who will say that listen, I have found my balance, I do not wish to come to office. Why should I waste 2 hours traveling to
Hmm.
office in the morning, 2 hours in the evening, where I can spend that time being productive? Maybe I can make a presentation. Maybe I can make 10 sales calls. Maybe I can do something else in that time instead of driving to office. And driving 4 hours on the road in today's traffic is absolutely a waste of time. Or I can spend that time
Yeah.
working out, or I can
Yep.
spend that time teaching my kid, right? Or there can be
True.
some people who say that I miss that social connect. I
Hmm.
want to go to office because I miss that social connect, but maybe I don't want to go all 5 days. Maybe I want to go 2 days in a week or 3 days in a week.
Hmm. Hmm. Yep.
So I think organizations need to start having authentic conversations with their people. And before rushing into a policy or a forced comeback, I
Yep.
think they need to understand this diversity.
True.
of people, the life stage they are in, the thought process they are in, because they have contributed and they will
Yep.
continue to contribute. If they have contributed in your business continuity in the last 2 years of the most difficult time that the industry has been in,
Yep.
then they
Yep.
will continue to contribute in 2022 as well.
True.
So
True.
let's not be in a hurry. I
Hmm.
understand that 2022 will be a very critical year because everybody will have ambitious targets.
Yep.
But let's not force people to make a choice that, um, can I speak in Hindi as well?
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. Go ahead.
हाँ, कि यहाँ पर तो सुनवाई हो नहीं रही है, यहाँ पर तो फोर्स कर रहे हैं ऑफिस आने को. So let's work
Hmm.
somewhere else where I can be my authentic self, where I can still work from home, get the same amount of money, get the same amount of freedom and empowerment. So let me,
Yep.
because today it's an employee's market.
Hmm. Hmm.
So let's be mindful of that.
True. And I think even before having these conversations with your employees, you need to have a conversation amongst yourselves as the board members or the senior executives. Like you said, if you have different mindsets, if you have different views within your senior management, then usually these kind of policies, they don't really come out the way they should, right? And it becomes a challenge for not just the HR but also the consulting firm who is coming in and advising them on different policies. It becomes difficult for you guys as well to ensure that they are on the right path, because you have to maintain that balance between the employee and the employer. And you rightly said that this is an employee market, and there are so many different factors which are in place. Some of them want to come back to office, some of them don't want to come back to office. In that scenario, I feel that when it comes to your role based model, I think that makes more of a difference, and much better approach, wherein you can understand which roles actually require people to be in office and which roles can easily be remote or can be outsourced to a different organization. So with that thought in mind, I wanted to ask you, when it comes to diversity and inclusion, what are we talking about in 2022? Are we talking about underrepresentation? Are we talking about isolation? What exactly do we talk about under diversity and inclusion when it comes to making sure you have a good balance of different representations? What is that? Am I able to frame that question?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So I wanted to understand your thoughts on that.
So, Anurag, different organizations in India are at different stages of their inclusion journey. So,
Hmm.
a lot of organizations, even today, are talking about underrepresentation of women in
Right.
their workforce, right? So, we have 48.5% women in the country. But how many, if you talk about some sectors, so you would have women, but mostly at the junior level or the mid level
Yep.
level. Uh,
Hmm.
how many companies have women representation at the leadership level? And I'm not talking about a woman HR head, but I'm talking about women leading IT or women leading sales or women leading operations, right? Which are typically male dominated roles. So
True.
a lot of organizations are still working on that journey. But having said
Hmm.
that, if I look at the kind of assignments which have been coming our way since January this year, there is a lot of impetus on inclusion of the LGBTQ community and
Hmm.
the persons with disability.
Okay.
And when it comes to persons with disability, there is also a realization that now with remote working becoming, uh, a very accepted
Yep.
way of working, a lot of people who are people with disability can be given roles where they can be experts. So, for
Hmm.
example, a person on an autism spectrum syndrome can be
Hmm.
a great graphic designer or can be a great communicator or can be
Yep.
a great can be great in sourcing CVs. And if you can have these roles which are completely work from home, and you
Hmm.
can
Hmm.
work with organizations, and there are specific organizations, there is CareerNet, there is Vividta, there are so many organizations which help you hire these capable. There is Atypical Advantage run by Vineet
Hmm. Hmm.
Saraiwala, who himself is visually impaired. There are people who can help you hire these people fully qualified to do a job, and you can create and you don't even have to create new roles, but roles which are
Yeah. Yeah.
existing in your organizations, they can work from their homes and do a fully productive job.
True. True. Yep.
Right. So so that is there. And there are a lot of organizations who are working on inclusion of LGBTQ community. We have ourselves worked with companies where there has been sensitization on language, there has
Yep.
been sensitization for hiring managers, there has been
Hmm.
sensitization of managers on how do we induct them and make them feel welcomed and make them feel a
Hmm.
part of the team. So even before they hire, they understand that they need to make the culture, whether they are working remotely or they are working in in office. In
Yep.
both cases, how do we create? So now there is an understanding that the demographic of the country, if you keep that as a benchmark, and what is the population percentage of a certain section of people, how much
Hmm.
of that section of people represented in your company? And if
Yep.
you are not represented, if they are not represented, those are the underrepresented people.
Okay.
Right. So
Hmm.
then you start working towards and say that, okay, this year now we've made some progress with women participation in the workforce. Can we
Hmm.
start
Hmm.
working towards inclusion of people with disabilities? Can we start working towards people from the LGBTQ community? And what I tell them is that, listen, don't be afraid of making mistakes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Every journey starts with lack of awareness.
Hmm.
At
Hmm.
least move towards awareness, and then take the first step. Make your managers aware, make your policies right, make your structures right, make your processes right, sensitize your people, hire
Yep.
of in fact recently we had this news where Tata Steel has hired two batches, one in, I think, their Jamshedpur factory and one in another factory. They have hired
Hmm.
two batches of transgenders in their factories.
Okay.
So they are also starting in small batches. So every step is a positive step, and with
Yep.
every step we learn. But it is important to make, when we hire them, make them also a part of our journey, so that they can tell us that how can we become better. So
True.
make an ERG, which is an employee resource group, and
Hmm.
they tell
Hmm.
us, okay, these are some of the policies that this company does not have. This can empower and enable us much more. It can make us, our lives in this company, more welcoming. We will feel
Yep.
more valued. Right. So having ERGs is very important, and companies are open to it, they're working towards it. So we
Yep.
are
Yep.
right now working with clients that are really having these open conversations.
Hmm. Hmm. True, true. Interesting, interesting. And this was Tata Steel's West Bokaro division. They hired and onboarded around 14 transgender people
Yeah.
as they made them as part of their core mining operations. So they were doing these heavy earth moving machinery operations on the mines. So really interesting and a good concept. And you can do all these inclusions. But this question, this thing again pops up a question in my mind when it comes to at what stage does a company really start to have these kind of conversations? Because a lot of entrepreneurs and startup founders also listen to our podcast, and I'm sure they must be having this question as well. That I'm a startup, right? Let's say I'm a startup. I have a team of 10 to 50 people right now. When is the time when I should focus on this? When it comes to inclusion and diversity, is there a stage when you consult companies? is there a roadmap that you lay for them, that this is when you should have these kind of conversations, or when is the right time to have these kind of conversations? Because there's always those thoughts wherein people want to hire what's right for the company in their mind as of now, because right now, let's say they're an early stage startup, and then you talk about companies like Tata Group, they will have a very different thought process when it comes to diversity and inclusions, and a company which is just starting off with 10 to 15 employees will have a very different perception around that. So is there a
Hmm.
roadmap that you generally recommend, or a stage wherein you say that yes, this is the right time to have these conversations?
So, see, there are two things when it comes to startups. Okay. The
Hmm.
first question that a startup needs to ask themselves is that what kind of a culture that you want to build in your company. Think 5 years from now.
Hmm. Okay.
Think from a founder perspective. Okay.
Hmm.
While you will be dealing with here and now problems.
Yep.
What is my product? Where is my next client coming from or customer coming from? माल निकला कि नहीं,
Yep.
delivery hui ki nahi. Yeah, you are dealing with these here and now. But your journey is not just here and now. Your journey is where will I be 5 years from now? And for that, a startup needs to, or a founder needs to have a vision of what kind of a culture am I going to build in this company.
Hmm.
Correct? And
Correct.
that
True.
is what used to keep me going even when I did not have a single client.
Hmm.
Right? I said that if there were two things which were important to Marching Sheep, is to make a difference to people's lives and careers and drive respect and equality for all. And these have to be embedded in everything we do,
Right.
every intervention, right? And
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
has to be embedded even in the team culture. So the kind of people we hire, the kind of people interventions we do, our interactions with our clients, this cuts across everything. Now,
Hmm.
for a founder, it is very important to understand this कि मेरा ultimate purpose or vision क्या है,
Yeah.
right? Now,
Yep.
when that gets established, how does it matter कि if I have a job? In a job, these are the 5 things which need to be done.
Yep.
Now, whether I'm hiring a woman, whether I'm hiring a person of the LGBTQ community, or whether I'm hiring a PWD, as
It should
long
not
as the
matter.
person can
Hmm.
do the job, how does it matter?
True.
I just need an open mind. If
Yep.
I can build that culture from day one, if I want to build that culture,
Hmm. Hmm.
then I
That is the
don't
key
need
question here.
any
Na, if
consulting.
you want to build that
If we
culture.
want to build that
Yeah.
culture. So then
Yeah.
I don't need any consultant, then I don't need anybody. All I need to do is that have a set of policies and procedures from day one, which
Hmm.
are neutral in tone, which are
Right.
employee friendly, which are
Hmm.
inclusive, which do not use he, which do
Yeah.
not use she, which use they, which are gender neutral in their terminology, which are welcoming, which encourage people to open up.
Hmm.
That's
Hmm.
all.
True. True.
And today,
No, I
every
completely agree.
startup
Hmm.
requires a policy manual to get their first investment, right?
Yeah.
It's all investors look for documentation and a set of policies and everything. So you need to think about these things. It's important. And today, if you ask people what kind of a company you want to work for, they want to work for a company where they feel valued for their contribution, for their authentic self.
Yep.
I don't want to change myself if I have to go and work for a company. I
Hmm.
spend
Hmm.
8 to 10 hours working there. I don't want to be somebody else for those 8 to 10 hours.
Hmm.
Life is too
True.
short to, be an imposter or whatever, a farce.
Yep. Yep. True. Absolutely. And this all boils down to what kind of the culture that you spoke about. How is it being trickled down the line. It's not
Hmm.
just the founders or the senior executives, but also the entire team. Because at the end of the day, the biasness starts at that level, and then it reaches to your higher management. So I'm
Yeah.
sure these kind of conversations you would have had with a lot of organizations. What do you generally recommend to organizations when it comes to these kind of bias within the
Hmm.
team? How can they solve it? If you can share a few anecdotes.
Sure. So, two things here. Firstly, see, an employee, unless it's a small setup, let's say a founder or a co-founder can have one-on-one interactions with every employee till it's a small setup, let's say up to 30, 50, even up to 75 people.
Hmm.
But the moment you start growing beyond and you create a second layer and a third layer, that one-to-one connect becomes difficult. And founders and co-founders are also, they have so much to do. They have to strategize, they have to look for investors, they have to think of new products and services, they have business development to do, they have so many decisions to make. So it is not possible that, founders and co-founders will constantly be in touch with every individual employee and solve their problems and listen to them and have authentic conversations. So
Yep.
naturally, it is the second and the third layer which needs to carry on that message.
Yes.
Now, we need to understand, therefore, that an employee does not experience an organization through the top management
Hmm.
or through HR or through an HR manual. They experience the organization through their day to day interactions with
Hmm.
their manager and their peers,
Right.
right?
Right.
So, developing that managerial capability at the
Hmm.
middle level, the junior, the first time managers, the second level managers, the third level managers, on how to build an inclusive culture in the team is
Hmm.
extremely critical.
True.
Sometimes we believe that building an inclusive culture is the responsibility of HR. पॉलिसीज होनी चाहिए,
Yeah.
इंक्लूसिव पॉलिसीज होनी चाहिए, तब तब इंक्लूजन होगा. टॉप मैनेजमेंट इंक्लूसिव होना चाहिए, तब इंक्लूजन होगा. But it is the small actions of a manager which make an employee feel included. In a
Yep.
team meeting, is Sonica given an opportunity to speak? I might be the only woman in the team, and team meeting हुई, उसमें सोनिका को opportunity ही नहीं मिली बोलने की.
Hmm.
But my manager Anurag makes sure that in every meeting I'm given an opportunity to speak and my inputs are taken on board.
Hmm. Hmm.
Every small action makes a difference. Every Friday evening, the team goes out for a drink after work gets over. My team ensures that I am invited
Yep.
and I am not left out of conversations.
True.
Every lunch table, they are not just talking politics, football, etc., etc. I am an integral part of conversations.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
don't sit alone and find, are there any other women with whom I can have lunch? I have lunch with my team.
Yep.
My manager has had a career conversation with me to understand what are my career aspirations. He has
Hmm.
not bucketized me as a working woman, saying कि अरे इसके तो बच्चे हैं, इसको तो growth aspiration नहीं है. But he
Hmm.
has asked me that Sonika, how do you want to learn and grow?
Yep.
So it is up to the manager to create that environment. When I
Hmm. Hmm.
joined the team, my manager called me at the whole team meeting and introduced me and my accomplishments and my achievements and set me up for success in the
Yep.
team,
Yep.
right? So it is small actions of managers and team members that make a difference,
True. It's more about
right?
providing those opportunities, giving them the stage to prove themselves. And later on, it's the individual's capabilities or competencies, whether they grow or not. But at least as an organization, you should be able to provide them a stage, give them ample opportunities, open doors for them so that they can enter and make themselves more useful and have better career opportunities within the organization. And this is what, like,
Absolutely.
in the start of the conversation we had this, that people, they feel like that, I'm not being appreciated here, let's work somewhere else. And that's what we discussed a few minutes
Absolutely.
back. And that is what is happening. Like, a lot of organizations, they are losing a lot of their talented employees just because of the fact that they are not being able to provide them opportunities and give them stage where they can actually perform and showcase their worth. I think that is one of the key highlights that even I have seen in the last couple of years. uh, what do you see in this scenario, when it comes to not just diversity and inclusion but opportunities as well? What is your take on this? And while working with your clients, what sort of changes, I would like to focus on the drastic changes that happened from an organization, from going from point A to point B. If you can give some examples there, it will really help our audience today.
See, when it comes to people leaving, I seriously believe that people don't leave organizations, people leave managers,
Hmm.
right? And
Correct.
when an organization grows and grows really fast,
Hmm.
right? Uh, uh, People grow from and it happens with a lot of companies which are scaling up really fast. They are
Yeah.
focusing so much on numbers that they forget to scale up on capabilities, right?
Yes.
And what they don't realize is that until and unless they create that environment where they're getting new people, they socialize them and give them a sense of belonging, show them that they, I used to watch this show called Suits,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
they used to call their firm home, right? And I think somewhere we need to uh, draw that parallel and say that you've come home.
Yeah.
This is where you will learn, you will grow, you will find your career aspiration and your manager. And that is why I keep coming back to managerial capability. If a manager, with his team of 8, 10, 15 people, focuses on those 15 people
Hmm. Hmm.
and works with them on giving them that space where he says that, listen, I am going to work with you, we are going to be the best team, yes,
Yep.
we are going to perform, but I am personally invested in helping you achieve what you want to achieve,
Hmm.
right? So if you want to, develop like this or grow like this or have this kind of a work life balance, then let's have an authentic conversation. Empathize. So be curious, be empathetic, be transparent, and create a team environment where everybody collaborates with each other so that we achieve our team targets. At the same time, everybody feels that they can bring their authentic selves to work. So
True.
here I'm not talking about DNI, but I'm talking about every person being a unique person,
Yep.
right? So
Hmm.
every person brings in different thought processes, different ways of working, different skill sets, different work experience, different aspirations, different issues at home.
Yep.
When I
Yep.
come to office, I don't leave my issues back home. They are niggling at the back of my mind. I have a sick parent, or my wife is pregnant, or my child is going through issues because Haryana government has suddenly said that there will be boards. It could be anything.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
True.
So if as a manager I can understand that and say that,
Hmm.
okay, let's have an authentic conversation, and then let's get back to work.
True. True. it can't be just a transactional relationship anymore. It has to go beyond that. It has to be about understanding what the employee is going through and giving them an opportunity to solve those issues. Like, I remember one of these conversations that I had when I was working in the corporate back in the days, that there was a time when a couple of our team members were having some issues at home. And at that time, there was no remote work as such. Everybody was coming to office. And uh, so at that time, our manager was really understanding, and he said, hey, it's not just about your issues, because you're part of the team and it impacts every one of us. So get that sorted. If you need a couple of days off, work from home. Otherwise, and then we as a team, we pitched in on that meeting. We said, hey, you work from home, that's okay. We have some couple of hours extra during our day. We can work on your project. We can help you for those couple of hours, and of course we'll bill the company extra for that, but that's okay. But at least at the end of the day, you are working as a team. Not just the manager, but also your peers are working towards that. And this, when you spoke about this, that conversation came to my mind, because that was one of those interesting and really good conversations that you can have as a team, that uh, you come together and you help somebody.
Yeah, and if I may add, Anurag, we done this pulse survey in the middle of last year, and two things which came out as evolving employee expectations
Mm,
from the workforce. One was empathy from managers. Okay, it came out as one of a big crying need from the workforce, empathy from managers, and the second one was flexibility. And when we say flexibility, it was flexibility in terms of saying that allow us to choose without having to compromise on our work deliverables. So choose to work from where, choose to work timings,
yep.
maybe choice of saying that what kind of com structure I want. So while my
Mm,
CTC
mm,
remains the same, but maybe I need more retirals for somebody who is does not want that much cash in hand, but somebody who
yep.
wants
Yep.
more cash in hand, some other
Mm,
com structure. So that was what how people are thinking today.
mm,
And the
mm.
other thing is that you know I can say this, that when I started work, the way we were groomed as managers, there was something known as bulletproof manager. We were taught achievement orientation, we were taught how to
Mm,
monitor, we were taught how to give feedback, we were taught we can't be vulnerable, it was
mm.
almost like no chink in the armor.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
now people want authenticity, people want that, if I am feeling vulnerable, full disclosure. If I'm feeling stressed, full disclosure. So my team did 360-degree feedback with me the other day, and they said that, Sonica, you had COVID, you came back to work in 4 days, and
Mm,
we saw you going through so much of stress and everything, but you did not share your stress or extra burden with the team. And
mm, mm.
but when somebody else in the team fell sick, you gave her 2 weeks off and this and that. But we can see that it impacts the other team members because that stress comes out in other ways,
Yep, yep. True.
right? So
Mm,
they want full disclosure. They say that we are completely fine, आप 2 हफ्ते की छुट्टी लेके पूरी तरह से ठीक हो जाओ, नो प्रॉब्लम, आप अपना सारा काम हम पे डंप कर दो, नो प्रॉब्लम. And I fully get that. So they want that authenticity. They say कि we don't want you to be a superhero.
yep. True. Absolutely, absolutely. And that is what I think now the conversations have started to change. Now people
Hmm.
understand that what is going on. In fact, like you said, that bulletproof manager doesn't really work out in today's environment, because at the end of the day, I was going through this really interesting poll on LinkedIn the other day. I find them really hilarious. But this poll actually
Hmm.
spoke about, whom would you prefer to work under, a competitive but rude boss, or an
Hmm.
incompetent but like uh, liking kind of a boss? That was a really interesting question. I was like, there's no right answer to this, because You can't have like black and white answers in these kind of
Yeah.
conversation. But I'm sure our audience today would have gained great insights from you, and a lot of entrepreneurs listening to us, a lot of working
Mm.
professionals listening to us. Would have gained great insights from you, Sonica. Thank you so much for doing this with the Socially Desi show. Before we wrap up today's episode, any closing thoughts on how we as a society, not just corporates, let's not talk corporates now, let's talk as a society, how can we ensure that we are providing ample opportunities, we are providing different groups, different communities to come together, work, and be appreciated, be included in our day-to-day lives. Closing thoughts on that.
So I think all of us in our different roles have an opportunity to help someone or the other. We might not be very big people. So, for example, I don't have any political connects or I don't have any godfather in the industry or anything. But I realized that during COVID, a lot of people reached out to me asking me for help to help them get a job because they realized being an HR consultant, I might have a lot of connects with HR directors. And I
Yep.
did. And wherever I could connect people, I did. Uh, Now I am connected with about 21 people with disabilities because we had done this campaign called 21 Marching. And wherever
Okay.
I can help them get an opportunity with their work, I'm doing that.
Hmm.
So I think in whatever capacity, we can use maybe our connections, our network, our knowledge, our competence to help others. I think we can make those small changes in or those small differences in our own small network. And every change that we make makes that small ripple, you know
Yes, it
and that
does. Yeah.
small ripple will touch somebody, and that it will just make maybe another ripple and then another ripple. So I don't claim to make a huge difference, but every small thing that we do, I think, will make a difference. And that is what I would say, that every one of us has power to make a difference. We just need to make a choice to do it. So let's
True.
exercise that choice.
True, absolutely golden nuggets there, Sonika. Thank you so much. And guys, we'll put the links for Marching Sheep and Sonika's LinkedIn profile in the show notes below. If you want to reach out to her, feel free to reach out to Marching Sheep if you have any questions around it, or if you or your organization wants to get in touch with them for their services, feel free to reach out to them as well. With that, Sonika, thank you so much for being on the show. And I would love to have you again on the show soon to talk more about how we can address a lot of human resource issues and challenges in our country, and how we can make work life better for everybody. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So that wraps it up for today, folks. If you liked the episode, give it a big thumbs up, share it with your friends, and let's go viral. Remember, our weekly podcast features episodes on personal growth, mental health, relationships, business and entrepreneurship, and health and fitness. We would love to have Sonika on the show again in the future to talk more about how we can make our workplace a better place to work in. So if you haven't yet done so, hit that subscribe button and go check out our website at sociallydesi.com. And as always, before I sign off, remember, life is black and white and everything in between.